Good morning. This is this is the New Year's Eve edition of Ascended World with Angela Coulter
Sarah Sieg, Avignone.
And we started talking, and I'm like, I don't even know where to break and start and where we're going to start, so we're just starting to record and see where we go today because there's a lot of stuff. And we were talking about what were we talking about? So the frustration that's going on, like, and we all have familial stuff, especially with our kids and our spouses and stuff like that.
All around the holidays.
Yeah, because we're all on top of each other. You know, we enjoy spending time together, and then we're on top of each other, and then you just, that kind of stuff. So, there's an observation though that, of course, in every irritation, there's a reflection back to ourselves. And Mal, what you just read, that was really interesting too, because we talk about relationships are a big topic, and I've gotten, it just seems to be, there seems to be so many limitations around misrepresented, like, how do I say that? No, that's not quite right. What's the term when something appears to be good but it's really not, in terms of, like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and there is a word.
I know, I can't think of it right now, but it's like boxed in this way that it, that we convince ourselves is positive and expansive for us, but it's actually self-sabotaging at some level. So anyway, so we started talking about that. That's where we've just gone off on some different things, and it's been, fabulous holiday season. It's just been these observations. And I was talking about somebody who wants to be a writer, and that's all they really wanted to do, and that's the last thing they've actually done. Out of college now, and they got a full-time job doing, like, medical writing editing, which is about as far as from being a creative writer as you can.
Right. Not much creativity there.
Right. And the thing is, there's every excuse in the world why they won't sit down and start writing. And it's funny because, and I'm like, and the person is very, negative and down on their, like, oh, that's, I don't want to say it makes me sad because that's pity, and pity is ego, but it's sort of like unfortunate to look at somebody who's only not even a year, like 6 months out of college, and already hating an adult life because of the job that, he's allowing and chose. And
but at the same time, that's good that he has that awareness. Some people do that for 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, some people do it for 30 years.
Right. And wake up one day and go, yeah, this has never been what I wanted to do.
Yeah. But the thing is, whenever I hear him saying something about it, I'm like, so change it. You have the opportunity and the space right now, and you're young, and you don't have all the commitments, everything else, so just get another job.
Right. Well, and I think that, yes, relationships are a mess right now. Absolutely a mess. And that's simply, that's
simply is not the word for it.
Easy. No, it's if you back it up to the relationship with yourself, like I was saying earlier, that, until you come to peace with all the pieces and parts of you and acceptance of you, because really they are just a reflection of you.
Right. And so, right, that's what I'm looking at within me, right? And what you just read. So, we talk about a lot about following your passion, right?
Right.
And our mind and our ego gets so in the way of allowing that, because we are convinced, or we convince ourselves, that it's supposed to look like this. We're supposed to have, a job like this, right? We're supposed to have this kind of income. We're supposed to know what kind of income we have, or have this much in the bank, or we have this much in assets before we can do it.
Or this lifestyle.
Right. Right. And it's so funny because I have worked with people who say to me, things like, well, like, so there are many people I've worked with who are single and whatever. And then, and you know, we talk about following the passion and they'll come up with every excuse not to, right? And then the answer to me is, well, you know, you're married.
Right. It's like you have a different set of rules.
And I'm like, except I don't run by the mindset that I can always depend on my husband. Because, you know, the funny thing is, what I tell them is, okay, so actually, until I left corporate, I was the master breadwinner and I made more than twice of what my husband made. And when I left corporate in 2006, I cut our household income by 2/3 and we could not live off of that third. Like, we could not, and the books by any means look at like how to even live off of that. When I started a new business, and I not only did we have to live off of that, but I had to use up all our assets that we had to put into the new business myself, right? And at the time, I'm bringing up 2 kids who are in middle school, like age at the time. And I'm like, and you know what? That's no different than being on your own, because and so I have always worked from the perspective of, because I did support myself. I've always had to support myself. I had to, you know, move out and support myself when I was 18 years old and I was making $5.35 an hour, you know, and whatever. And somehow I did it. Yes, I got roommates, I did this, I did that. I worked 2 different jobs and all this kind of stuff. And so many don't know that background about me, and they're like, well, you know, it's easy for you now. You know, it's easy for you because your husband supports you. And it's like, except my income is important in my household still.
Right.
Not like it used to be, but it is. And my guidance has been from the beginning to be self-supportive, to be in this situation where if I had to support myself, I could. And I do. And so to me, it's no different. You know, mentally, we think it's safer, but you know what? My husband could get fired tomorrow.
Right.
You know,
right.
I mean, something could happen to him, something could happen to the company. So many things happen, and it's like, it doesn't change my life. The thing is to do it in this place of self-sufficiency so that it doesn't change my life if that happens. Right?
Well, and the way things seem to be unfolding these days, this time period, is that no matter who you are, unless you're in that alignment, anything could fall away.
And right now it's like everything is falling away. So.
Right. So whether it's a relationship or whether it's a job or whether it's, you know, a life plan or whatever it is, it's like, unless you're in that alignment, anything is fair game. So why would you expend any amount of energy on anything but that alignment? Which is where, you know, that's where I find I spend most of my thought time is focused on that alignment. And it's so not second nature to me, because I am so in my mind and in the, you know, well, I judge how I spend my time, and that those creative things, or, you know, painting, or, you know, all the things that bring me joy creatively aren't a priority, because I've convinced myself that, well, that's a hobby, or that's a leisure activity. And
because I enjoy it, it can only be a hobby, right?
So until I get, you know, grocery shopping done, or meals done, or laundry done, or vacuuming, or this or that, it always falls to the bottom. And, you know, the more people that are in my house, or the more I allow that to be a priority, the farther I get from finding that alignment. And
it's such a habit.
You know, and the more uncomfortable things get, and the more tense things get, because I said, and I align with living from my passion, guidance from my heart, blah, blah, blah. Well, the things that I put as my priority of my time don't align with that, which then translates into discontentment with relationships, with, meals, with everything.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, so you're right. It is a very common, it's common, it's actually most common for everyone, that you feel like when you're in a relationship, you have to sacrifice.
Or, it can be under the guise of compromise.
Right. Yep. And it's not that we can never compromise anything, because sometimes it's better for us to do something together in terms of a certain lesson or whatever. But when we are because a compromise often sacrifices our individual journey in some way, right? So on the flip side, what people don't think about, with those who are single, or like always talking about how those who are married are so lucky, they can depend on their spouse and blah, blah, blah. But the flip side is this: people who are not married have far more flexibility. They have far less needs in terms of how to support themselves. Like, they can do so in much more creative ways,
Right.
And it's easy to allow yourself to really, if you allow yourself to really delve into your own passion without putting those sacrifices out there, because you're not in a day-to-day relationship that is, like integrated and all that kind of stuff.
But if you also change, reframe that and look at it from a perspective of any relationship can be aligned to fuel your passion.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, and that's what I was getting to, is the challenge. And I've worked with even more people who are married and don't do their passion because they find 50,000 excuses why they can't, because they've got to do this for their spouse, they've got to do this for their kids, they've got to do this for their parents, or whatever. Or they've got to do this to maintain a certain lifestyle, or, and it's like, well, but at some point you got to realize that the need to maintain a certain lifestyle is ego, because
Right.
It's the belief that you have some lack that you have to externally, show validation that you're worthy, right?
Right.
So, and that happens when we get into relationships, and that's I don't want to say the danger. That's the thing to be very aware of, because we fool ourselves all the time. Because we say, I've done this much, and you and I've talked about this. I've done this much, and that's enough. Because I'll just do these little sacrifices over here to keep this person happy.
Right. So it's like I can have my cake and eat it too.
Right.
Yeah.
Which the thing for us to really remember to the core is, no one makes us happy but ourselves.
Right.
So.
And until you get to that place of, and what I keep coming back to for myself is that I am actualized through the guidance of my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives me it's almost like it gives me permission to only focus on my heart, which once I achieve that place, everything else, even if it's just in the split second or just in the moment, falls into place. Mm-hmm. And I achieve something that I've only thought, I never thought was possible.
Yeah.
And if you can just hold that alignment, everything flows so much better, even the relationships.
It does. No, and that's right. And you know why? Is because then there's no obligation in the relationships anymore.
Well, and there's no expectations of, you need to fulfill me, or you didn't do this for me, or, you didn't make me feel this way, or, you come as a complete package, which allows everyone around you to complete their package.
Yes. Well, and if they choose not to, that's their choice. You can't do
exactly
that.
Exactly.
That's the thing. And then we get caught up in, but they're not doing that. And that's including myself, right? With looking at my daughter who's living at home in between, senior year of college and, you know, going to graduate school.
Right.
And it's like, well, I would have been so happy to have that opportunity when I was, you know, in that place in my life. And, you know, and it's like, well, okay, but if all you get is complaints and whatever, and how crappy it is and everything else, and it's like, well, then what's the purpose? And then it's like, well, because then you start believing, well, then why am I doing this? Why am I sacrificing the space in my house and paying, you know, the extra my bills and everything else? And
right.
But that's not why you do it. You don't do it for that return, right? I'm still holding that space. Whether you decide to take it or not, whether you decide to make the best of it or not, that is your choice.
Right.
And it's important for me to get to that place. Yeah, that's what it is. We were talking about this before we got on the air. And the biggest thing is getting to the place of not expecting any gratitude or anything in return and just saying, no, this is just space, your space, take it or leave it. And if you move on to a more difficult space, because you can't allow yourself to have it easy and you think it has to be harder because the people around you like are convinced it has to be hard, well, then that's your choice. I can't do anything about that.
Well, it's like, you know, people talk about when you loan somebody money or you give somebody money. It's like you do it. Don't do it unless you can do it from a place of, I unconditionally give this to you.
Right, and I'll never get it back.
I'll never get it back. I don't care how you spend it, and I don't care whether you're even grateful. Because all those are you know, those strings. I remember I had a sibling who was having financial trouble. And, you know, I wasn't in a great place at the time, but, you know, I gave him $75. They bought a TV. And I was, for a moment, I was speechless. But, you know, after talking to myself, I was like, well, if that's what they felt that money could be best served, I don't walk in their shoes. How do I know if that's what they needed to do?
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah. And in some way we do that to make ourselves feel good sometimes, right? And that's when the expectations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when the expectations are connected. So we don't realize how many layers we have of this connected in relationships. And it's like, you know, the other thing that I find really interesting is those who do, and I've seen this a lot in the past couple of years, is those who do so much to get out of their marital relationship, right? And they do all of this evolutionary work and it's great. And they want to jump right into another relationship.
Right. Right.
Even before everything is cut and severed from the old marriage. And I'm going, except that wasn't the purpose.
Right. Right. Well, and that's, you know, that's again focusing on the external relationship instead of the internal relationship.
Yeah. And I've gotten things like I've heard people say, oh, but it's my twin flame. Oh, but it's this. And I can't help it. And it feels so good. And it's so different. And I'm like, be aware of your own thoughts when you say this is so different. All it means is this is different from what I had before. And all I'm choosing to see right now are the things that are different because I was feeling like I was in lack of them, which still means you still feel like you're in lack, right?
Right.
You know, like you have to have somebody feel that. And the more familiar you become, the more, you know, like continuous it becomes of a relationship, the more you'll see the stuff underneath that will probably replicate what you had in the relationship before, because you obviously haven't finished what you needed to, you know, clear it from that relationship.
Exactly.
And so I always recommend to people who are leaving a marriage or relationship to give themselves some space by themselves for, like, you know, a year, 6 months. Be alone.
Right.
Learn who you are and learn how to be by yourself and learn who you are by yourself before you jump into something else. And yeah, okay. And it was funny because I had this conversation with somebody not too long ago, which is like, so go have sex. You can, like, go have sex. Go have fun. Like, just don't do it looking for, because, you know, the funniest thing is, as adults, it's like, you know, you have some hot sex with somebody, Like, and it's like, oh, right away, like they start talking about like, oh, but I don't know if this is, relationship material, and that's like, why do you have to assess your connection with somebody over like you met them 2 weeks ago? Like, why are you talking about now, like whether they are, partner potential? And it's like, how about you just had fun and enjoyed each other's company and were present in the moment from a higher vibration, hopefully, and you move on.
Right.
Um, if you don't know who you are by yourself, then how can you know who you are to bring that highest and best relationship to the table?
Exactly.
And people who've never been by themselves, because there are many.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, and I think that, you're just postponing or cheating yourself of that relationship with yourself.
It's funny. There's a man who I've been working with for several years through his separation and divorce, and he's been divorced now for a year, maybe longer. I can't even tell anymore because time is so irrelevant. But the funny thing is, his friends and the people around him, apparently, the longer it goes, are more and more on him to like join a dating thing, an online dating service, and you should start dating now and all this kind of stuff. And the thing is, we've done all this work, and it makes me very happy to hear him say, why don't I need that? I don't need that. He said, I moved right out of like my house with my parents to, joining the military and getting married, to the house with my wife. And we've had all these years, and, and he's just 50, right? And he goes, and I'm finally learning who I am at the age of 50 or 49 at the time we were having this conversation. It's like, I'm just finding out who I am by myself without being part of a duo or a relationship or a household. So I'm just figuring out who I am. I don't want to be with anybody right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, yay. And it's not that he doesn't have interactions or doesn't ask people out to coffee or whatever. It's that he's just, and he said, I'm more interested in finding out what really makes me tick in a way that I'm not doing it because somebody else likes it.
Right.
And we don't realize we do that.
Yeah.
How many times, I've done it in the past before I met my husband. I did it in another relationship, in a couple of relationships. Like, and you pretend you like something, or you tolerate something, or you get involved with something because your significant other is involved with it or likes it, even if you can't stand it. And I did that a couple of times, and I'm just like, I will never do that again. Like, why do we do that?
Even just, I guess it was two or three nights ago, my husband said something to me, and he goes, can we not watch this TV show? I can't stand this show. And I'm like, oh my God, we've been watching it for like 2 years, and it's just old reruns.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why did you never say anything?
Right.
Because it was, it's a mindless thing, when you can't find anything on, just put that on. And it was like, I could have easily not watched it just as much as watched it.
Right.
And to think that all those hours, he didn't want to be watching the show. And I was just like, wow, is there something about me that he couldn't speak up for himself?
Yeah, I know.
And it's like,
and so many of us do those things in little pieces.
Well, I didn't have the reaction of, well, then, we can't hang out together or anything. Right. It was more like, oh my God, you couldn't just say that.
I know, like back when that happened. So this happened a couple of, that happened once with my husband. I thought this was really funny years ago. So he drinks coffee and I don't, right? So the perfection of us as a couple is that I love the smell of coffee, but I can't stand the taste of it, right? So it's nice. He makes his coffee. It smells nice in the house to me. And I don't have to drink it. It's beautiful. Right. But when it comes down to, like, I can finally figure out how to make like a pot of coffee if I have company or whatever, but usually he does because he's the drinker.
Right.
But I couldn't tell you the difference between a Colombian roast, a French roast, a Ethiopian roast, or whatever. Like, to me, it's like, okay, medium on whatever. So there were times over the years, there were times over the years when I would be at the grocery store without him and he needed coffee, and I would pick up this was specific of like a French roast. I don't know, right? Like it's not like I'd be like, okay, I don't know, this looks good, I'll pick it up.
Right.
But it wasn't like I did all the time. I would do it like, you know, occasionally. I'll never forget one time, and I can't remember. It must have been, I want to say, like 7 or 8 years ago. Right now, I've been with my husband for 26 years, right? So 7 or 8 years ago, we've been together for, you know, 18 years, 17 years, right? So one time he was cranky. I had gone and I had picked up a French roast, and he goes, you know, I wish you would just stop buying French roast because I hate French roast coffee. And I'm like, and how did I ever know that before?
Right.
It's not because I'm picking up because I like it, because I don't drink coffee.
Exactly. Yeah.
So why did you have to wait till it really pissed you off to say something, you know?
Like, why do you have to get to a point where you feel you have no choice but to say it? You have to lose control, to be honest.
I know. So, you know, we actually, that's before we really did a lot of shifting in our relationship. And so we're much more honest now about that kind of stuff. But it's a joke. Like, we have a joke about that. I'm just like, French roast coffee. Yum, yum. So.
That's my husband loves French roast. But he also likes espresso too. So he likes the really strong stuff.
But we do that. We do that in relationships all the time. And then we hold the other person accountable for all the shit that's pissed us off that we've never said anything about, right? And it didn't piss us off in the beginning. It was just something we didn't like, but we then tolerated it. And sometimes it's why, oh, well, I'll just not say anything because, you know, they think it made me happy, or they think I'm okay with that, and they're happy and okay, right? That's what we do. These are the sacrifices we make. And then it builds up over time. Then it gets to, at some point, it gets to resentment. And it has nothing to do with the other person, even though they end up exploding on the other person at some point, right? Yep. And I mean, I'll just say, like, and it's funny you say that about the TV, because Scott and I, there are some things we like a lot, the same of, right? But there are some kind of shows I just have no interest in that he likes.
Right.
And I just tell him, I really have no interest in that. And that's what I say, I really have no interest in that. Can we find something else? And he will watch things on his own time when I'm not around. And I'm, you know, like, because he knows I don't like it, and vice versa. Like, I wouldn't expect him. There are things that I watch on my own that I wouldn't expect him to watch unless he voiced it, you know, and expressed interest in it. But that's just honesty and coming from the heart. Like, when we do live in that heart space, then we're in that place, right, of I am, like, this is me, and I'm authentically being me from a space of love, not like, you know, your thing is stupid because, you know, mine is better, right?
Right.
It's just, I mean, it's just like, okay, well, that does nothing for me. Like, that's what I say. I just am not interested in that.
Right.
I'd rather be doing something else than watching a show like that or whatever.
Right.
And these little things that they add up. And I mean, how many times I see people, like, one person getting involved in a hobby that the other in the couple is into, and they pretend they like it, and they, you know, even convince themselves they like it for a while. But, you know, the thing is, if you took your significant other out of the picture, would you still do that by yourself?
Right.
Usually the answer is maybe for a little while, and then probably not.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, you know, I think we're in agreement that it comes down to being in that heart space, and it's like there is nothing in our society that educates and supports that.
No, because, you know, we've also convinced ourselves and each other societally that you have to have a lot in common. You have to do all this stuff together. You have to want to spend every waking minute with your significant other. That's really not the case. Why? Why would you have to want to spend like that? To me, would be in this complete state of need that you're not like, and there's that I'm not complete without you, right?
Right. Well, and I personally would rather have, you know, 40% time together that is amazing,
or even 30%,
right? Then, or even 20,
right?
That is just like nothing else you've experienced, versus 100% of mediocre.
Right. Because you then are not allowing yourself the space then to pursue what's in your heart.
Right.
Because you're sacrificing yourself for the belief that you have to make this other person happy with your presence and and that's like totally backwards.
Right.
You know? And it's funny because then we do this, like, and it's like the whole breaking up from relationship and then jumping right into another one. And then I hear somebody talk about, oh, well, it's so different, it's so passionate. It's like, of course it's new. You haven't had anything new for a long time.
Right.
Right? So have fun with the passion, but don't get connected to it. And time and time again, all of a sudden I'll hear, oh, and I'm going to do this with this person and this with this person. And I'm like, you have had maybe 2 weekends of encounters with this person. And now you're talking about some long-term things you're going to do together. That's a lot of assumptions. And why is that important?
Yeah.
Because what happens then if it doesn't go past the couple of weekends, or you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole, and I'm like, and we lose this, we convince ourselves, we lie to ourselves to say it's okay to do this sacrifice, or it's okay for me to be with this person. And when we say that I have to be with this person, that means I have a lack and a need, right? Or that I believe is being filled by that person, but that never is the case. It's always your perception and where you are. And the more needy you are of having some, like I always, like that's the other thing is I hear, especially when people talk about twin flames, which we don't talk about much on this broadcast, but people are like, that's the new catchphrase, right? That's been a new catchphrase for the past like 10 years in the spiritual community. And
it's almost like an excuse.
It is. Oh yeah, it's like it's a new thing to be a victim to.
Right.
It's like, oh, but it's my twin flame. I have to be with them. And I'm like, you don't have to do anything.
Right.
And most of the time it's not the case. No, most of the time, but like, and people are like, but I yearn. It's really funny. I'll never forget one time I was having a conversation with somebody who was doing that falling victim. And, oh, I can't help myself. And there's this, like this crazy attraction and blah, blah, blah. And this person's married and the other person's married. And I'm like, so are you ready to just walk away from everything? Whatever, to do this, if that's what you believe. And then, oh, but I yearn for them. And I said, you realize that yearning is the ego.
Right. It comes from that place of need.
Yeah. And they were quiet for a minute and they're like, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, right. Yearning is ego.
Yeah.
And lack. Because yearning means I don't believe I have it without you here.
Right.
So all it points to is looking at the reflection of what we believe something is supposed to, many people have no idea so you have two sides, you have two sides of this, you have multiple sides to this coin, but you have those who are not in relationships who fear following their passion, and I don't know why, because I feel like the universe won't support them in doing so.
Right.
Which then that comes down to a belief of what? Unworthiness.
Yeah.
And lack. And then you have those in relationships who will make every excuse to not stand in their own authenticity and power and follow their passion because of sacrifice to others around them. Because I have to do this. Because I have to take care of my kids. Because I have to take care of my spouse. Because I have to tend to my parent. And
or
then
I'll be judged for not fulfilling this role in the way other people think I should.
Right. And I know, and you went through a ton of that.
Yep.
And one by one, everything fell away.
That's right.
Because when it starts to fall away, then it's like, okay, well, now I can't use that as, and I'm not saying that for you, but I mean, this happens to a lot of people right now.
Yep.
When that falls away, then you have no excuse. Well, now what's your excuse for not doing that?
Exactly. Yep.
So, well, yeah, now is your excuse for not being your passion, being the full divine being you are.
Right.
Now, and that is, coming into this next phase. I don't even like saying year, because year is just a pretend thing we make up anyway. So, but this next cycle, we seem to be, that has been really kicking our butts this whole last 6 months or so, right? Into a place of, and I believe that this whole cycle, this chaos that's been reigning for the past 6 months or so, specifically, if you want to go back 12, it could be that too. If you want to go back 10 years, I don't know. Right. But it's been this acceleration of clearing out the shit that we use as excuses to distract ourselves with.
Well, and I clicked on a link that a friend of mine, an old friend of mine, had shared, and it was talking about the poles reversing on the earth.
Yeah.
And about how, we're 200,000 years overdue for this to happen. And it's not, just flipping a switch, and it's a gradual process. And I was drawn to that that's what I feel like that we're enduring, is that flip from the mind to the heart.
Yes, I agree.
And that it's that polarity shift that affects every cell in your body.
Yep.
And it's like, some days you do better than other days.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that this read, was that, it's a gradual thing until you can get more comfortable with being there, and that it affects, everything.
Right.
All the inhabitants on the planet.
Well, yeah. And if we think that, as above, so below, I always say as without, so within, right?
Right.
That's totally totally an example of that. And what they've shown, like I've seen things about, what would happen if we did have a polarity shift like that, right? Well. And if we looked at that within ourselves, and what they say, tidal waves and earthquakes and fires, and look at, what's been going on already, right?
That's exactly what we're having.
Extreme weather and all this kind of stuff. And so if we change the words, right, to like massive shifting, when you go from the mind to the heart, right? And you go and what does that do? That's got to clear out, you are resetting your entire physicality by doing that.
Right. Which changes that relationship with yourself.
Yes, completely. So of course everything just it will seem chaotic. It'll seem like it's one catastrophe after another. It depends on how we want to perceive it. But it's really the stuff that's melting away, so that we can allow ourselves to be in this shifted place of a much stronger, fresher, more pure place within ourselves. Right.
Well, and if you think about it, every catastrophe that the ego perceives is probably a victory in the hearts. If you want to look at it from that polarity perspective.
Yeah.
So it's just perspective.
Yeah. And so what's happening is, it's almost like we're going, right? And we start down that path and allow that tilt to happen, right? And the further we get, it's like, oh my God, we start to panic, right? What if I totally let go of myself into this? And some people then will back up and find something to cling on to, a branch or, high ground or whatever, to formulate and pretend it's not going on, right? So that they can hold on to it for 5 minutes longer.
Right.
So when you get back to the relationships, that's part of why many people get out of one thing, and it's they have the space, and then they want to cling into another relationship, and then it's it's so passionate and and it's another distraction. It's preventing you from allowing yourself, to totally get there. And it's not that it's not good to have it. I'm it's great to have it. It's just not to distract yourself with it.
Right.
And to say, hey, this is awesome, and I can move on, and I have other things to do. This is an awesome piece of the pie, but I've got other things to do.
Right.
So,
well, and I think the key is to figure out how to find that place in the heart and align with that place in the heart and be comfortable with that place in the heart.
Yes. All on our own, all as our singular,
right,
singular wholeness. Because from that singular wholeness, we talk about balance. I was talking about the balance with, my daughter and her kittens, and I thought that was really awesome. But really, it's not balance anymore. It's wholeness.
Exactly. Yeah.
We always talk about the need for balance. Balance is very duality based. It's wholeness that's important. And wholeness is, I have the light and the dark. I have the feminine and the masculine. I have, this and this.
I have everything I need.
I have everything I need and then some, because I'm whole and complete as I am. And I don't need to create anything outside of me to make me feel like, oh, excuse me, there's the yard, to make me feel like I'm not whole.
Yep.
And that includes relationships, it includes distractions, it includes catastrophes and physical issues and aging and what else? There's so many things.
Job loss.
Yeah. Jobs and money, right?
Yeah, shifts in your personal economy.
Yeah. That's very tactful way of putting it. Shifts in your personal economy, that's a good one.
Or shit in your personal economy. Either way.
Yeah. And we are, Marie Curie, I love that. One of my favorite quotes is, we only fear what we don't understand.
Right.
And that's why so many fear the unknown, fear moving into something different, right? So, because we can't hide from ourselves when we're alone and on our own and in that authenticity and wholeness.
Right.
There's nothing, but then we realize when we're in that wholeness, there is nothing to hide from.
Yeah.
So, my goal in moving forward, it's funny that we did all get into this, but yeah, my goal into moving forward is focusing on living in the heart, focusing on living in my passion. And like you read, I want you to read that thing that you read to me before we got on the Wayne Dyer thing.
About the writing?
Yes, because that's the thing, like people are like, we get stuck then in this other thing. I had this conversation the other day with someone on like, oh, what formula do I do? And who am I, we are so used to like, who am I addressing if I do a business or if I write or if I do my art or if I do my music or if I do.
Who's your audience?
Yeah. Who's your audience? Who are you addressing? Who are you making happy? It's like, how about I just make myself happy? And those who vibrate to that will just come.
Will find me. Right. Yeah. I mean, this is something Wayne Dyer had out there. I write because writing is something that I have to do. And it doesn't matter whether people like it or not. When I write, I feel the pressure and anxiety that come with taking an empty piece of paper and trying to fill it with something from your own consciousness. I sit there for 6 to 7 hours a day for a year. It's something I have to do. And I would suggest that's true for most creative people. They don't go to their studio and paint every day because somebody else out there is going to be buying their work. Van Gogh never made a penny in his entire lifetime. He painted because it was his soul, his excitement. It was what aligned him with his source of being.
Yeah, and that's just perfect because, and it's not saying, and the thing is, it's time for us to allow ourselves to say, I'm allowed to be the source of being, my source of being in alignment with who I am in wholeness. And I'm allowed to have all of it. I don't have to sacrifice like prosperity. I can be prosperous and be
yeah.
But the thing is to take the focus off of it and to focus on the heart and what's coming through from the soul, whatever that looks like. And you know what? Look at the people who've like made amazing progressions in technology. Most of those people just love doing what they're doing so much that they do it like all day and have like, many of them have like no life except that's all they do.
They can't not do it.
They can't not do it.
Right.
and it's because they love it and they're passionate about it, not because, oh, I have to do it. It's, I love, well, I like, not because I have to do it for other people, but because I have to do it because this is who I am.
It's almost, that's what completes them,
Yes.
not another person. He says at the very end, which I just found, an artist or a creative person of any kind goes about their work because it's their path. It's what excites them. It's what aligns their soul with who they truly are, who they showed up to be.
Yes.
So it's that piece of you.
Yeah. And it's not that that fulfills you externally. It fulfills the ability to express the embodiment of that.
Right.
So that's the goal. That's my focus, like coming into this next cycle. And what, I feel like that's what I'm going to be holding the vibration, because if I hold myself to the fire of doing that completely, then um, others are more than welcome to join me and we can do it together.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's yeah, I agree completely. And it's time for us to do that without excuses and without distractions.
Right. And it's I don't know, I think it's serves such a multifold purpose, that it's not just finding out what your purpose is. It's aligning with the relationships you already have in your life. It aligns. It's aligning from the inside out versus what we've been trying to do from the outside in.
Yes. Yep. Oh, it is very good.
And that's what I think we need to do today,
Yes.
is that align with that path
Yeah, I agree.
easily. Allow it to be natural. Oh, that feels really good.
Yep. Well, to be natural and to be our whole self in a way that we don't know what to, like, that we could not even think about being anything else anymore. Yep. Yep. That's, yeah, being that that's all we allow ourselves to be.
Oh,
Both of us are yawning now.
I feel it. I feel the energy shifting.
Negative energy shifting. All right, so we know where to go. All that in a beautiful, beautiful, sparkly package.
Easy flowing,
Easy flowing, fun,
natural,
natural.
intuitive.
Yep. 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 Let's go do. And anything else you want to decorate it with.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Is that what
It was funny because the first thing I heard and what I heard almost through the whole thing was the song Let's Go Crazy.
Funny.
And I was like, if that's what this is, then I'm there.
Well, and it was really funny because what I was shown is I was watching this thing, and you know, like we see the torus, the energetic torus, right? The big
Right.
donut kind of thing with the energy moving both directions.
Yep.
So I saw that, but it was almost like allowing ourselves to see that holographically, where we allow the energy to come out and flip us, you know, that polarity shift, right, from to the heart.
Yeah. Yep.
And then all of a sudden, everything I was looking at just flipped. Like everything that I could see in my life or whatever, just like everything was shown through a different set of eyes. And I was like, oh, and then I just seeing things at like a global level and like, you know, this, galactic level. It was just like really, really cool. At the very simple level of me, I was like, so I've been giving this period of time, which has been a period of time of like an easy period of time, right? This last like couple of years, and it's like, so are you gonna finish taking advantage of this, or are you just gonna like, you know,
Right.
that's right. So give yourself that space. You know, you've been giving yourself that space, so take it.
Right. Right. Don't sit and
And think of what you can't do, but think of what you can. And it's like, oh, of course, right? There's my reflection. Because once everything was flipped, right, it became very me. Of course, it was all me, right?
Right.
And then I saw it from a much larger perspective. That was really nice. That felt different in such a different way too. Really nice.
Yeah. I just kept seeing myself going in and, you know, going underwater and going under the water and then going, I just kept seeing it going in, but at the same time going out.
Yeah.
And it felt like nothing else mattered
Yes.
but
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
And it was like, I could do this all day long.
No.
I had to do this.
Yeah. Did you see did you hear the cat came in again and was chirping? Did you hear him?
No, I did not.
He's been walking around the chair, Obi, and he was chirping at me like, okay, I know, I'm here too. My little helper. And yeah, that felt really nice. What a great session for today.
I know. This was, of course, perfect.
Always, right? So we'll let y'all go on that. So have a happy new year, new phase into our new heart, I guess, right?
Right.
New authenticity and natural authenticity.
Yeah.
And we will see you next time. So this is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avignone.
signing off on Ascended World. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.